Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. Do you feel tired or anxious or lacking focus or no patience to talk to people in front of you for more than just a few minutes without looking at your mobile phone? Have you been sleeping badly? Do you feel like there is a huge list of things to do and that you will never be able to do it all? You probably answered yes to many of these questions. And how do I know that? It is very simple. These problems do not affect just you, they affect the entire society that has access to the internet and smartphones. And the companies that create game and social media apps are specially to blame. All the functions on these apps are purposely designed to get you addicted and to get you to spend as much time as possible scrolling. Notifications that have a pleasant sound, feeds filled with interesting pictures and viral videos are the ones that catch your attention the most. The stories that disappear the next day just to make sure that you want to watch them before they're gone forever. All of this is the engineering of addiction. The tobacco industry was already doing this decades ago, using chemical engineering to find the most addictive dose of nicotine to hijack your lungs. The more addicted you were to smoking cigarettes, the better for them. Nowadays, the tech industry also has engineering to acquire and retain the most users for as long as possible. Specific features were added to make the apps extremely addictive to hijack your time, your attention, and your soul. That is why you need to protect yourself from digital addiction. You will learn how to do that in today's Arata Academy summary. In a practical way, we will explain you the ideas from digital minimalism, choosing a focused life in a noisy world. It is a book written by Cal Newport. Digital tools get you hooked on purpose. Instead of using the tools, you are used by them. It is increasingly common to hear people say that they are exhausted by the amount of content, notifications, and other things that keep stealing our focus all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These apps use features that have been specifically designed so that you're always looking at your screen, always checking your phone, with that constant feeling that you might be missing out on something important. Do you wake up looking at your phone and then you go to bed with your phone by your side? You should know that it was not always like this. Both phones and apps were created for very different purposes than they have today. Mobile phones were created so people could make phone calls. Facebook emerged as a website for university students so they could know more about the lives of others. Even when the first iPhone was released in 2007, Apple described it as the best iPod we have ever made. In other words, those who have been using these tools since the beginning, they did not intend to become addicted to staring at the screens all the time. However, gradually the business model in the digital industry changed, and it continues to change to this very day. In the past, the predominant model was software sales, where people paid to unlock, to install different programs such as operational systems, text editors, spreadsheets. It was a time when only a few people could afford computers. And there were also very few people who could afford to pay for the software licensing. It was very common to pay like $500 for just one program license. And that came in a sealed box with several installation floppy disks or CDs. However, with the popularization of technology, everyone has a smartphone and wants to have access to apps. But they don't have enough money to pay for licensing. Therefore, the companies have observed this trend, and now they offer many different types of apps for free or at a very low cost. But they seek to profit by showing advertisements to the users. Have you ever stopped to think how you pay for the free apps like Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter? You don't pay with money, but you pay with data and your attention. That is why it is said that today we are living in the age of the attention economy. Today, the big tech companies are basically trading data to whomever wants to buy your attention. Social media, apps, games, messaging, emails, all of that is being monitored to learn more about you, your usage patterns, and your behavior. And then it is all sold to the companies who want to advertise products or services or simply change your behavior to their standards. Therefore, the more data that is being generated, the better. This has led to twisted arms race. Tech companies created gimmicks such as the like button, the amount of followers, and other inventions that appeal to our need for social approval. These inventions are addictive. They mess with our brains in a dangerous way that even the experts have not figured out yet. Digital minimalism is a way of using only the good side of technology. Enjoy what is essential and cut out the rest. To defend yourself against the strategies of the big tech companies that want to keep us staring at a screen for as long as possible, you should try digital minimalism. Minimalism began as an art movement with a style that seeks to use only the essentials to convey the emotion that the artist wants to transmit. And when there is too much, it is difficult to focus on what really matters. Therefore, less is more. And when there is less in front of you, it is much easier to focus. The idea that less is more eventually spread to other areas, such as minimalist product design. For the past few years, minimalism has also gained popularity as a lifestyle. People who seek to detach themselves from consumerism and live more simply, they adopt minimalism as a way of life. The idea of digital minimalism is to bring this less is more philosophy to technology. Do not confuse minimalism with being averse to technology. It is different. It is not abandoning your computer and going back to using a typewriter. On the contrary, the goal is to use the best that technology can offer us without getting addicted to the products from big tech companies. It is not enough to use quick fix solutions such as turn off notifications, uninstall a few apps. Just silencing notifications will not stop your brain from wondering if you're missing out on something important. The purpose of digital minimalism is to make you reflect before you even start using technology by asking yourself, does this website, this app, or this service really contribute to the things that I value most in life in a way that no other thing does? The logic behind this question is to optimize the use of technology to maximize the things that you value most in life while wasting less of your life, your energy, and your attention. What you eliminate should be decided according to your personal values and not by a list that has been made by other people. I always read all the comments that you leave here and the ones that you also send by email using the contact form at arata.se/contact. And obviously it is not me who answers everything directly to you because we have a team to make everything more efficient. But I always read everything because this is how I understand your main requests. And then I can research the topics that I believe can help in each situation. And when I read these messages, there is one type of compliment that makes me particularly happy. It is a compliment that Arata Academy works differently, that it is not more of the same, especially that I do not keep imposing rules. So, for example, I personally do not use social media on a day-to-day basis because I am simply not interested. I have never created an account on Periscope, Snapchat, or Clubhouse, for example, even at times when people would only talk about these things. These are the hot social networks. However, I don't impose this as a rule for everybody, and I fully respect your choice to use it in case it is valuable to you. You need to know yourself. You need to know what your values are. You are the only person capable of making conscious choices about what is best for you. Each person is different, and you need to reflect to put the digital minimalism ideas into practice. So please be very careful whenever you find motivational speakers who keep telling you to uninstall all your social media accounts in order to be more focused at work. Like, is this really your case? Only you can answer that. When you reflect on digital minimalism, you may conclude that a social network contributes to the things that you value most in life in a way that nothing else does. Well, in that case, keeping that social network is essential to you according to your personal values. This makes it clear that before you even think about deleting this or that app, you need to be very clear on your biggest personal values at the moment. This ordered list of things that you value the most in life is one of the most important self-knowledge exercises that you can do. If you want to know more about how to make your own list of personal values, you can check out episode 122 of the Hello, Sei Charata series. And once you're clear about your values, you will be able to weigh the costs and benefits of using each website, each app or service that you normally use. Now, if the benefits are essential, greater than the costs, well, you can continue using it. Otherwise, the best path is to stop using it. If you are in doubt, you can treat everything as an experiment. You can stop using a website or an app for a while, for example 30 days, and then see if your life has improved. Did you have more time to chat and read and exercise? Did you feel more focused at work? Were you less anxious? If you consider that these benefits are greater than what you're losing by not using that app anymore, then continue on without using it. Otherwise, start using it again and remember that nothing is permanent. In order to do this digital decluttering, analyze one by one all the websites, the apps, and services that you normally use. For each of them, do the proposed reflection. Start with the ones that take up more time and attention, and then work your way down to the ones that you use the least. Digital minimalism has 3 principles. Clutter is costly, optimization is important, and intentional use is satisfactory. When you evaluate whether something is worth it, you should take into consideration not only the price, but also what having that item will cost you in your lifetime. This is called the opportunity cost. What other things could you be doing instead? For example, if you buy a car, you cannot only take into consideration the price of the car, the insurance, and the fuel. You also need to consider the time, the effort, and the stress generated just to drive and maintain that car. Do all these costs add up to more than the benefit of having your own car? The answer to that depends on each individual person. The same logic should be used for each website or app or service that you decide to use. Signing up for everything just because it is free or just because other people are using it, it can cause clutter in your life, and that clutter is costly. Also, when you are not mindful about what services you use, you end up missing out on the benefits of each one. In economics, this is known as the law of diminishing returns, which says that if the quantity of one good increases and the quantity of other goods remains constant, total output per good will go down. It will not increase. For example, if you want to stay informed, you can follow 1 or 2 news websites. But that does not mean that the more news sites you follow, the more informed you will be. What happens is the complete opposite. If you try to read too many news websites, you will end up with less information than if you only followed 1 or 2. The reason for that is that if you read too many sources, there will be a lot of repetition. Therefore, you have wasted time that could have been used for other, more valuable activities. In other words, there is no automatic improvement just by adding items. You have to learn to select less for more quality. That is optimizing the use of technology. Select websites and apps and services that work in synergy, one enhancing the other. In the same way that clutter is costly, optimization is important. And ultimately, you need to intentionally use technology to achieve the satisfaction that you desire. Think of intentional use as the opposite of distracted use. We often use technology in a distracted manner. We pull out our phone and we scroll through the infinite feed of social media. We check the news headlines or text in group chats. A practical way to find out if you're addicted to the app is when someone else asks you if you're doing something important and you just answer something more or less like, yeah, I'm just browsing. It is likely that there is no clear intention in using that app. There is no conscious focus. Instead, try getting clarity. Why are you using that app in that particular moment? Do you really want to see the news or the messages or social media? Why do you want to do it in that particular moment? Could it be that you're just distracting yourself, you're procrastinating from doing some work that is important that you should actually be doing? There is nothing wrong in distracting yourself as long as you do it intentionally. Now, the problem is when you are watching the news, telling yourself that it is to keep yourself informed, when your intention is actually something else. When action and intention do not match, you can never get the satisfaction that you seek. It is subtle, but this dissatisfaction builds up throughout the day and you always find yourself frustrated, anxious, or unhappy. You can fight all of this if you adopt the 3 principles of digital minimalism that you just learned here. Clutter is costly, optimization is important, and intentional use is satisfactory. Try 30 days without technology. Then reintroduce only what is essential. Cal Newport proposes a 30-day experiment away from technology as the best way to get you started in digital minimalism. And you can use this period to interrupt the way you use technology and reset it at the end of these 30 days. You can be reintroducing only essential websites and apps and services. During the experiment, you should cut out all non-essential use of technology from your life. Now, what is essential or not depends on each person. For example, if you use social networks for work, well, you cannot stay away from it for 30 days. But just be honest about what is actually essential to your life. Anything that is not absolutely essential to your life and work should be put aside for the next 30 days. Streaming videos, TV shows, YouTube, social media, chat groups, games, news websites. Imagine staying away from all of that for the next month. 1,600 volunteers took part in this challenge. For most of them, the beginning was really difficult. Just like any addiction, they felt withdrawal symptoms. But after a few days, they had lost the habit of taking their phones out all the time. They stopped confusing necessity and convenience, and they started using all of that extra time and newfound attention to do activities that they had not done for a long time. One way to take advantage of this extra time is to be reflecting about your inner self and try to identify what is actually important for your life. This way you can see which activities can fill the void that is being left by the overuse of technology. At the end of 30 days, you should not go automatically back to your old habits. In fact, what you should actually do is to carefully reintroduce only the websites, apps, and services that are proven to be essential for you. The ones you cannot work without. The ones that do you more good than harm. Especially those that help you to take care of your personal values. And to identify these essential tools, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. In this particular order. Number 1, does this technology help me with something that I actually value? If the answer is no, avoid reintroducing that technology to your life. Now, if the answer is yes, ask yourself the second question. Is this technology the best way to take care of that personal value of mine? If the answer is no, find out what is the best tool for this. Now, if the answer is yes, then move on to the last question. Number 3, how can I use this tool in a way that maximizes the benefit and minimizes the harm? I'll give you a very clear example. Imagine you are a woodworker who highly values knowledge and you have gone 30 days without YouTube. Now you're wondering whether or not to reintroduce this tool to your life. To decide, you ask yourself if YouTube helps you to gain the knowledge that you value the most. If the answer is yes, then you move on to the second question. Is this the best way to take care of that personal value? Do you really think then you conclude that YouTube is the current best place to find videos about woodworking? That can help you, in practice, to get more knowledge from your profession. With that, you can now move on to the third question about how you can use YouTube in a way that maximizes the benefit and minimizes the harm. For example, you can get a premium subscription to YouTube and therefore avoid being bombarded with ads all the time. You can use extensions that hide comments, that hide video recommendations. You can automatically limit your usage time and try to not spend too much time passively learning and too little time actually practicing what you just have learned. You see, quick solutions will not solve the problem, but they may help with the withdrawal period. There are many quick solutions, life hacks, and other tricks to minimize technology usage. These solutions usually do not solve the problem because they don't tackle the root of the problem, which is our uncontrolled, unoptimized use of technology without knowing our intentions. This does not mean that quick fixes should be left aside. They actually help you use technology less often. Some of them are well known: turning off notifications, leaving your phone or airplane mode when you want to concentrate, or using devices that only do one function. But digital minimalism proposes other unknown hacks. The first one of these is to value solitude and silence, two things that technology has put to disuse. If you're around 20 years old, you have probably never experienced the time to really be alone and be silent, away not only from other people but also away from screens. Cole Newport recommends that you leave your phone at home and then you go for a walk alone. Take this time to think, to look at the view and observe what is happening around you. Great thinkers used to do this exercise in the olden days, and it helps the brain to come up with new ideas. Another solution is for you to never use the like button again. Our brain has evolved for thousands of years to express itself deeply and make complex social connections. When we use the like button, or we simply leave a very simple comment like, cool, we are underutilizing our brain or weakening our social connections. This is a very superficial way of communicating. We were pretending when we were doing this to keep in touch with friends and family, but this is false. It prevents us from actually getting in touch with them, to talk, to hang out, to have real human interactions. The more elaborate your communication, the better. An elaborate comment is much better than just hitting like. An email is much better than that. Calling the person is even better. Meeting the person to hang out and chat when it is possible, that is ideal. In addition, try to arrange time for quality leisure activities on a daily basis. This should include real physical activities with three-dimensional objects. This does not include activities such as watching movies or video chatting or playing games. It is ideal to make time in your schedule for these activities. Otherwise, other life demands or even laziness can prevent you from having this quality time. Be part of the resistance. Use all necessary means and join forces in the defense of attention. Digital minimalism is part of a global movement that is known as attention resistance. Considering that most big tech companies today are part of the attention economy, this movement seeks to resist the transformation of our attention into a commodity. You can choose to be part of the majority and waste your life looking at screens. Or you can choose to be part of the resistance and intentionally remove yourself from the attention economy. At first, the idea of using as little technology as possible may seem weird. Over time, you may realize the benefits of getting your attention, your focus, your time back. Think of all the things you could do with more time, with more focus, with more energy. How would you evolve in your profession? How much more money would you make if you worked better? How much more quality time would you spend with friends and family? Would you be able to fulfill old dreams, like getting in shape, reading more books, or maybe even learning a hobby? I know it may seem unthinkable to live these days without social media, but remember that nothing is definitive. You can do the 30-day experiment. Reintroduce what is essential and test how you prefer to live your life. Having your attention commercialized by big companies, or adopting digital minimalism to use new technologies in an intentional and satisfying way. Digital minimalism is a lifestyle that encourages reducing the use of technology and using only the essential. What is essential is up to each person, but the principles behind digital minimalism remind us that clutter is costly, that optimization is important, and that only the intentional use of technology brings true satisfaction. If you have taken an interest in this subject, you can do a 30-day experiment away from technology. Then, reintroduce only the websites and apps and services that are really essential to your life. In terms of attention and focus, this will bring huge gains to your day-to-day life. And by the way, if you suffer from lack of focus and concentration, I invite you now to get to know the Focus course right now. In this quick course from Arata Academy, you will discover how to eliminate the lack of focus and increase your concentration, and you can get to know the course by checking the link arata.se/focus course.